Good evening, everyone. I would like you to welcome you to the regular council meeting for September the 24th, 2018. First, can we have an adoption of the minutes, please? 2.1. Councillor Peak, Councillor Holmes, and any discussion on the minutes? Okay, I'll call the question. To accept them? All in favor? Thank you. Resolution to adopt the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda, Jeremy?
There are no recommended changes.
Okay. So could I have someone bring forward the resolution to adopt the agenda? Councillor Peak, seconded Councillor Barkwell. All in favor? Thank you. And next, moving on to public and statutory hearings. We have 4 tonight. So I will start by calling the first of the public hearing to order. It is on zoning bylaw amendment 19233 Lakeshore Drive, bylaw number 2018-021. This public hearing is being held pursuant to Section 465 of the Local Government Act. During this public hearing, anyone who believes that his or her interest is affected by the proposed development, you will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaws that are the subject of this hearing. All information, correspondence, petitions, or reports that have been received concerning the subject bylaws have been made available to the public. Council may ask questions of staff and public, but once the public hearing is over, no new information can be received. Council debate on the bylaw will take place when the bylaw is considered after the conclusion of the public hearing, so later in the meeting tonight. At that time, any questions of staff will be for clarification purposes only. I will be inviting the public to come forward and present their comments. Speakers are asked to state their name and address for the record. Speakers are encouraged to limit their remarks to 5 minutes and should include all of the relevant information in their presentation. Further opportunity will be afforded for all persons to speak a second or third time once all persons have had an opportunity to speak. I would now ask the Director of Development Services to introduce the first item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First item, as you outlined, is at 19233 Lakeshore Drive. This is to consider an amendment within the low-density residential designation under the official community plan to change it from residential medium lot zone, RSD1, to residential duplex housing zone. So you can see on the slides that we have the location map. The property is shown in yellow. The proposal is to create a duplex. Essentially, this is the plan that was submitted with the application, showing that it would meet the minimum requirements of the zoning bylaw with respect to parking, siting, etc. I think that concludes my comments, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Has any correspondence been received?
Yes, you'll find in the agenda package there are 2 pieces of correspondence that were received in time for the agenda. They are in opposition to this proposal. Further to that, there were 19 letters received, and this package stapled is on your desk for every member of council. It contains 19 letters in opposition to this. Note that 3 letters appear to have been submitted by 2 people in various forms, but there were no letters received in support.
Thank you. I would like now to give you the opportunity, anyone that is in the gallery, for the first time to present their views. please state your name and address before you begin your presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Marianne Smurl, 7718 Hagan Avenue. Madam Mayor, council has in their packages a copy of my letter, and I would like to punctuate a couple of points, especially after I just walked in and read the package, indicating that the proposed change in zoning is actually within the parameters of the OCP. However, when I read the OCP, stated on page 6.2, and you recall, I was actually in this room when staff presented to council that Crescent Beach would be removed from the urban growth area. And so it states in the OCP that areas outside of the urban growth area will retain existing zoning rights, and any change will be discouraged. I'm asking council to deny any change.
Thank you. I'll ask for the second time. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to speak to this? Thank you.
Madam Mayor and Council, I reside at 19011 North Lake Shore. If for those of you and
May I ask you to state your name, please?
I'm
for the
sorry,
record?
Terry Enns.
Thank you.
I have the south lot of the old Dunstan property, for those of you who remember. And the subject property, I purchased in 1991, 19233. And I owned it for about 15 years. And and it's just a one-bedroom cottage, and it has another bedroom in the garage that still exists. And we raised our 3 daughters there. We didn't live there permanently, it's cottage. And so I know the property very well. Subsequently, we purchased the property that we're now on, and we built a cottage that suits our family's needs. So I've only been there since 1991, so in Crescent Beach terms, I'm a relative newcomer. This application for a duplex would not affect me directly because I'm around the corner from it. But I'm painfully aware of how variances to the zoning bylaws can affect me, because we built what I thought was in keeping with the neighborhood, a nice cottage with a little room over the garage. Now we have a monster house beside us, built by Mr. Campy. It's 25 feet high. We call it the warehouse because beside our lot, there's no windows. It's just a gray building that shoots up 25 feet high. And it was the subject of 2 variances that this council approved. When I read this, and I did not submit a letter, so this is an independent view, I was extremely taken aback by the staff recommendation on this application and the rationale provided. And I'm sure you've all read the rationale, but I was only made aware today when I talked to Corinne, Ms. Gain, that rationale that was provided in your package was in fact provided by the proponent. It wasn't provided by staff, but it's not identified as that. So, as I thought about this, it became very clear to me that this is a rezoning proposal, period. It's a rezoning proposal to rezone to duplex zoning on a lot size that does not meet the minimum requirement. In fact, it's only 0.62 of the required size for a duplex. That's not even 2/3. It's a 50-foot lot. To approve this would set a precedent not only for Crescent Beach, but in my view, for the whole municipality. The signal would be that you can disregard the lot size requirement if you tell a good enough story. To approve this would create a density on the beach that is only seen on very narrow lots in the city of Vancouver, 25-foot lots. Now, I'm aware that because I purchased this property a long time ago, that area was subdivided around the turn of not this century, but the last century, around the 1900s, and therefore they divided them into 25 lots, some of which exist to this day. So I present to you that your consideration should not be based on a divorce and the division of marital assets. And I only raise this, and I regret raising this, but it was stated by the proponent, and it's obvious from the rationale given that this is, in fact, a way to divide the marital assets. So I ask that council ask of your staff, when you consider this, 3 questions. Once the property is rezoned, could the property be sold as a rezoned property? The answer, yes. It could be sold if the proponent changed their mind. It could be sold to a developer or whomever. Number 2, once the duplex was built, could either of the sides be sold? Answer, yes, they could. It will be, in fact, a strata subdivision. So either side could be sold at a later date. Number 3, is there any obligation to follow the concept drawings submitted? Answer, no. They're only in concept. Anything that meets the building code for a duplex could be built on that property once you have rezoned it, if you do. I hope you don't. There's a 3-story structure that was built on the 25-foot lot right beside this property. You've probably seen it if you've driven by there. It's very nicely done, but it's 3 stories. I'm told, because there's a for sale sign on it, that the owner changed their mind. And it was a subject of a variance to create that property in the first place. So, bottom line, people change their minds. It's a free country. They can do that.
May I ask you to wrap up your remarks, Mr. Innes?
I'm going to wrap up right now.
Thank you.
In my opinion, this application favors the proponents, but I cannot believe that it comes recommended by staff. I just cannot believe. It's not a minor variance. It's a major variance to the bylaw. So, Miss Mayor, I'm not sure how to address you.
Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, my concluding statement is that you should listen to the neighborhood. It's they that you are accountable to, not to staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Innes.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, Council, my name is Ingrid Holler, and I am the proponent.
May I just interrupt you just for a moment? I apologize for this.
Yes.
People in the gallery, please remember to hold your applause. We don't want to have any intimidation in the gallery to other speakers. Thanks very much.
Sorry, my name's Ingrid Holler, and my address is 19233 North Lakeshore Drive. I currently live in Vancouver, in the City Hall area. And I'm not sure I bought my property directly from you, but I bought it in 2004. And initially we thought we might take it down, but it is a very charming 400 square foot cottage with a sleeping room. And it's an original 1920s cottage. And the kitchen was added on, and they didn't put a proper foundation under the kitchen. And so it is gradually getting spongier as you walk through it. I guess just to address, I know there are lots of concerns. Change is always difficult. And, you know, I really do understand that people have concerns. The only thing I would say is that, you know, in terms of the beachfront, while it's very true that this is one way for me to retain a piece of the beachfront, the properties along the beachfront are very expensive, and, you know, in a sense, it democratizes the beachfront to some extent, although even a 25 or a smaller, you know, home won't be inexpensive, but it probably won't be will be half as expensive as the larger ones. Anyway, it was noted before that the properties vary in size from 25 feet to 120 feet wide along that stretch, that arm of North Lakeshore Drive. And the house that was built immediately to the east of my property is 3 feet or 3 stories tall. And what I would propose is to have something that is 2 stories tall, so it would, you know, fit better in. I sort of feel like it's almost like a compound with that 3 foot right now. You know, most of my backyard has a wall that's 3 stories tall beside it. Anyway, I guess, you know, I would, if this is approved, I would try to be a good neighbor. I've tried to be a good neighbor, you know, in the time that I've owned it from 2004, and I know that there are a few of my neighbors who have told me that there was a petition and they did not sign the petition and they support me. But I guess the one thing is the duplex, in terms of the additional square footage allowed, only provides for a 5% increase in what a single-family home would be. If I sell that lot, someone's going to put the absolute maximum they can there, and that's sort of the trend everywhere, not just on the beachfront. And then in terms of height, you know, I've already talked about that, but so the massing would be similar to a single-family home, and you know, we would make every effort to make it look as much as possible like a single-family home. And I guess that's all I have to say. And I thank you for your attention, and thank you, Council.
Thank you, Ms. Holler.
Ally Steenbergen, 7315 Hagen Avenue. I just would be a little concerned that if this would get passed on a 50-foot wide lot, then pretty much anybody down there could rezone and put a duplex in. And I would then assume, because the district of Summerland seems to like carriage houses a lot too, that we could have duplexes and then we could have carriage homes on each of those lots as well. And we have one road in that's 2 kilometers long to get to Crescent Beach from Peach Orchard Road. And if there's a slide down there, sure, we've got Slater as an emergency, but it's not always kept up very well, and if people had to get in and out of there going up Slater, and then you're adding more traffic in and out of there with presumably every lot there could be a duplex lot in time. The traffic would be crazy. Like, where's the emergency access then? Anyhow, that's my point. Thanks.
Thank you. I'll ask for a second time then, if there is anyone in the gallery that would like to speak to this public hearing. And for a third, thank you.
Marianne Smurl, 7718 Hagen Avenue. Is it appropriate to ask a question for clarification? Because I'm confused by the statement in the agenda package that this area is zoned for increased density. Yet, when I was in this room, staff recommended that Crescent Beach be removed for exactly the reason that was stated, safety concerns and emergency access. And so in the official community plan, it states quite clearly that Crescent Beach is out of the urban growth area, and that areas outside of the urban growth area are to retain their existing zoning. So my question is, why is staff recommending something that is contrary to the official community plan?
The response I just had from the CAO, I'm a bit of a newbie in this chair, is that we cannot answer the question at this time.
Okay.
But this will be coming forward later in the agenda tonight, and that question will be asked of staff.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. For the third and final time, is there anyone that would like to speak to this public hearing? Nope. Okay. So I will ask for a motion for council to adjourn the public hearing. Councillor Peak, Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Thank you. Luckily, I don't have to read the statement again. So we're on to public hearing number 2. I would like to call the public hearing to order, and this one is for zoning bylaw amendment 9304 Jubilee Road East, bylaw number 2018-022. Director of Development Services, could you introduce the bylaw, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Certainly. This is a site-specific zoning application for 9304 Jubilee Road East. It is an application to amend the heavy industrial CM zone to allow for recreation service indoor as a site-specific principal use in this area.
Thank you. Director of Corporate Services, do we have any extra correspondence on this matter?
No correspondence has been received.
Thank you. So it's now open to opportunities for public input. Is there anyone here that would like to present their views? I'm asking for the first time. For the second time, is there anyone here that would like to present their views on this bylaw? Nope. Third and final time, anyone care to present their views on this bylaw? Okay, seeing none, I will ask council for a motion to adjourn the public hearing. Councillor Peak, Councillor Barkwell, all in favor? Thank you. On to public hearing number 3. I would like to call to order this public hearing for zoning bylaw amendment 15823 Logie Road, referring to bylaw number 2018-023. Director of Development Services, will you please introduce this proposed bylaw?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This bylaw is another site-specific bylaw. Sorry, my slide's correct here. Oops. Is that in the right place? There we go. So this is an application from the owner. I'm sorry, there seems to be some problem with the text on my bylaw here. Let's mix the two. Logie Road. I seem to have a little bit of a problem with my order of my slides here this evening. I apologize.
No, it's not the package.
I don't seem to have a slide on that particular item. That could be part of my problem. Therefore, I will simply speak to it. This is a proposed amendment to Section 12.1.2, Principal Uses in the M1 Light Industrial Zone, to allow for contractor services general as a site-specific use for the property located at 15823 Logie Road, for the purpose of allowing the outdoor storage of heavy equipment and construction materials. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. And again, Director of Corporate Services, any correspondence on this application?
None has been received to date.
Thank you. So again, we're open to public comment on this particular public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to come to the podium and present their views? Asking for the second time, is there anyone that would like to come to the podium and present their views? Okay, and for the third and final time, is there anyone in the gallery that would like to present their views on this public hearing? Okay. Seeing none, I would like to ask council for a motion to close this public hearing. Again, Councillor Peak and Councillor Holmes. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, and then the fourth public hearing. I can find my paper. Okay, I'd like to call to order the public hearing related to zoning bylaw amendment 12817 and 12801 Kelly Avenue, bylaw number 2018-025. Director of Development Services, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is an application to change the zoning of a property that's currently subject to a comprehensive development zone. We're introducing a new MX1 mixed-use zone for the purpose of constructing a mixed commercial and residential building. The development will also, of course, be subject to a downtown area development permit in due course for form and character. At this time, we're considering the land use question and the site plan that we have for consideration of the land use question is as shown in your package and here on the screen. So there are no requested variances at this time to any of the bylaw provisions, and I'm sure that council will recognize this as a property that has been under some discussion over the last several months. So this is simply the next step in the process to deal with the land use question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And again, is there any correspondence relating to this public hearing?
No, there's been none.
Nothing received. Okay, so comments are welcome from the public on this application, this public hearing. For the second time, is there anyone that would like to present their views on this public hearing? And for the third and final time, anybody in the gallery that would like to come forward and present their views? Great. I will request that council close the public hearing. Councillor Peat, Councillor Carlson, all those in favor? Thank you. Declare it closed. Okay, we're moving on to item 5 on our regular council meeting agenda. There are no delegations, so on to number 6, which is the opportunity for the public to comment. We have a 15-minute time limit on this. We would ask you to only speak to items that are highlighted in yellow. Anyone that cares to may come up to the podium. Please state your name and address and provide us with your comments. Thank you. I guess there are no comments this evening. The next item on the agenda, number 7, is the mayor's report. There are copies of the mayor's report on the table as you come in the door there. Council attended the annual UBCM convention in Whistler from September the 10th to the 14th. As acting mayor and on behalf of council and our CAO, I can safely say it was a very productive week. Council met with ministers and provincial staff to speak about matters of concern and to ensure we stay top of mind on our proposals and funding requests. Mayor Waterman appointed council presenters on various topics, aligning our particular interests and knowledge to the topic being discussed. Our MLA, Dan Ashton, accompanied council to most of the meetings. Briefly, our meetings included Forest Lands and Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development staff and Emergency Preparedness BC to thank them for their responsive approach during the emergency with the flooding of Eneas Creek. We requested that EMBC review their funding policies and work with local governments on mitigation works. We also met with Minister Trevina, who's the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, about the extension of the lakeside pathway from Trout Creek to Penticton. Minister Popham, Minister of Agriculture, we spoke to her about the work Summerland has already completed and our readiness to locate the proposed Okanagan Agriculture Innovation Center in Summerland. We spoke to Minister Robinson, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, about green infrastructure funding for Trout Creek Flume and intake upgrades and the value that the new funding programs that were announced at UBCM by her ministry will be for our community. Our final meeting with the minister was with Minister Donaldson, again, Forest Lands and Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development. And at this meeting, council had the opportunity to speak about the need for the District of Summerland and the provincial government to work together to assist property owners in mitigation and recovery in regard specifically to Eneas Creek. We also discussed the funding application for the Ag Sector Development Strategist, which is part of the 5th intake of the Rural Development Fund. And again, we spoke of recovery and mitigation funding policies. Some meetings included more than one provincial ministry or agency, and we found this very helpful because many of the topics we presented were relevant to more than one ministry. Our CAO, Linda Tynan, led 2 meetings with staff in addition to attending and providing additional input at all other meetings. Infrastructure funding programs and the rural dividend application were the staff meetings that we attended. Not able to pass up the opportunity, council had the chance to have several individual conversations with our premier while we were there. We coerced him with some of Councillor Carlson's fresh cherries, and the premier promised to make a visit to the area soon. Councillor Carlson, though, needs to bake a cherry pie for the premier. Gluten-free. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council, just a note on UBCM, we haven't had an opportunity to discuss too much in debriefing, and I just wanted the council to recognize that I also found that the week was even more valuable than usual. I think at UBCM for me, all the ministries had their senior staff there with lots of opportunities outside of the regular meetings to discuss. We had lots of opportunity to discuss our recent years of wildfires and creek flooding and the difficulties we're facing in trying to get our parks remediated and work with our property owners along Eneas Creek. So I think it was a really good complement to the discussions that council had with the ministers. So that was UBCM. I also, for my CAO report this week, what I've tried to do is put together a document we have a lot going on right now. A lot of the projects that we've been working on for quite some time are coming to fruition. So I've done a CAO project update report. It doesn't say draft, but it is actually still draft. I intend to finish populating it over this week, and then I'll post it on our website, just in general correspondence, so it's available for all to give a good outline of just where all these projects are right now. I do want to point out a couple of things. Of course, we have the special meeting on Thursday for the rezoning for cannabis, for the consideration for both production of cannabis and the retail sales. So that one is on Thursday night. I wanted to note that our Development Services Department is particularly backlogged right now. We did a good review of our department and noted some of the changes that we needed to make. As you know, we have a new Director of Development Services and a new Development Planner, and soon we'll be bringing on board the Planning Manager, who will start on October the 9th. We're working through the applications. Some of them were started before our current director got here, and that's always a difficult process. We're trying to work with developers that are patiently waiting for their applications, and they are speeding up, but I'd say it's a significant backlog, and they're just working on compiling sort of a list, which we'll also post, which shows the number of different applications and what's outstanding and what status that they're at. And I think, as a CAO, I'm certainly happy with what we're moving forward and being able to address and get diving back into. So we will get to a better place. And other than that, I think the report is self-explanatory. And like I say, we'll update it over the week and get a current one posted up for you.
And there are copies of this at the back? See?
Yeah,
Yes.
there's printed copies at the back table.
Great, thanks. So everyone can get updated on that. Thank you. On to 9, unfinished business. 9.1, council remuneration review. Over to the CAO, please.
Thank you, and I apologize, council, I seem to be losing my voice today for some reason, but I hopefully won't do too much of this. First of all, so I have a report in the agenda. I also, because there's a lot of information on this one, I also printed out full copies of this report on the back table with the charts and graphs in it, so if anybody from the gallery had wanted one, they're printed out as well. So this particular report has to do with the remuneration mayor and council receives for their stipend for serving as mayor and council. Back in late 2017 or mid-2017, council requested staff put together a committee to review and make recommendations with the intent that this council would look at possibilities and make a decision on potential increases before an incoming one was here. We have one of our members of our committee here tonight. We have June Waddell. She was one of 4 of us on the committee who participated greatly in gathering the data, analyzing the data, and having really good discussions on what recommendations would be best to bring forward. Our other member, Bill Everett, is not able, he has another function tonight, he's not able to be here tonight. He participated, that's Bill Everett, and then Marnie Manders, our Human Resource Manager, was the other participant on the committee, so it was the 4 of us that worked together. So I'll just give council a brief summary of what the process that we went through, and June, if you wanted to jump in at all, you're more than welcome to jump in too. So we started out having a lot of discussion on what's the best way to compare municipalities. June, for example, has a background as a councillor in another municipality, so she understands municipal operations. We're very fortunate Bill has a background in sort of finance and accounting and industry work, and so we had some really good conversations. But the bottom line is that it's not a science, that there's a number, you can't take one factor when you're comparing remuneration for councillor. You can't say, let's look at 20 municipalities that are all 11,000 population and expect that you're going to see it all the same. So we have to look at what kind of factors might be important. When you look at the reports from the other municipalities that have done comparisons, they usually look at maybe 10 or 12 municipalities to compare. Sometimes they only say we want all the municipalities that are within 100 or a certain distance from us. Some say we only want a certain population. But the problem is that isn't representative overall. Region makes a difference. There is difference in remuneration all over the province. All councils of all sizes have the same responsibilities. There just might be additional types of things that you face. So we try to look at a combination and say what makes council similar. And that comes down to population. Yes, if you're at 11,500 population, you're likely, there's a good chance that you're going to be doing similar amount of work that other populations of that size. But also, what services do you offer? When you have a municipality like Summerland, where you have an electrical utility, which only 5 municipalities in BC have, but you're responsible for it, you have a lot more revenues coming in and more fees that you charge. If you operate your recreation complex compared to a municipality of 12,000 who has the regional district operating their recreational complex, there's that much less that the council looks at. They don't look at the fees and charges or responsibility for aquatic center or rec center or arena. If you have a landfill, I would say the majority of municipalities don't have a landfill. The whole operations of a landfill rests with the regional district or a transfer station or a landfill. So not only are your revenues a lot higher, but your assets are higher, your responsibility for legislation are higher. So we tried to say what municipalities are most comparable. So we took a group of 21, not including Summerland, of varied population, and you'll see in your report what those 21 municipalities are. We looked at the total fees that we collect, the total tax revenue we collect, the population, the actual physical size of the municipality, and then also close by municipalities. So even if a municipality was smaller, like Osoyoos and Oliver, we still included them in the base because they are our neighbors, and there is a certain amount of regional. So we took all of those factors, and when you look at the chart that we've included in the report, you'll see that the bottom line of when we averaged out all of those things, we took a very conservative approach because Summerland was about average on all, or smaller than, they were higher than all of the averages. So our revenues were more than our average revenues of all of our comparables. Our size was larger than all of them because we didn't want to overstate. We wanted to be taking a conservative approach. The only area that we're smaller on is the actual tax revenue, and that's based because we have basically a residential tax base. We don't have any, very little industrial and commercial tax base. So we took all of that and looked at what other municipalities, and that's where our recommendations have come from. The other piece that was very relevant this year is the, as you know, CRA, so the Canada Revenue Agency, is eliminating a practice that councils had for many years, and that is the 1/3 of your stipend has been tax-free. The purpose of that tax-free stipend was to recognize that part of council's role as council was to have meetings with people or to travel amongst through the town, and it eliminated any kind of bookkeeping. It was just tax-free. They're eliminating that, and therefore theoretically all of a council, any council across British Columbia or Canada, will be the take-home pay will be less theoretically. But after we did some research with CRA and other municipalities, council stipends will be considered eligible for tax deductions for legitimate expenses that councils entertain. So our recommendation from the committee is that the 1/3 tax deduction is not included in your determination of what the appropriate levels of remuneration should be. That you need to come to establish what the amount seems fair and reasonable, and then look at what your options are for deducting expenses from there. So our recommendations, as they're listed here, that councils, that the mayor's compensation be increased to $36,000 from 28,843 to 36,000, and that councillors' remuneration remain at 45% of the mayor's, which is basically what the percentage is now, and when you look at the average across all of the ones that we studied is also consistent between 44-45% mayors to, so 16,200. And again, if you have any questions, I can go into more detail on what's in the report, but I've tried to list, we've tried to provide the numbers in a few different ways to be clear. We've also suggested that we continue the practice that the compensation for mayor and council be increased each year by the change in CPI. That's a common practice, almost all the municipalities that we talk to and other ones that we've researched do a CPI increase each January. We're also suggesting that we continue to reimburse council for expenses in the same manner that you reimburse staff. So if you're at an event that's sanctioned by the district, an out-of-town event, you get reimbursed for your meals and your travel just per the travel policy. And council's actually already asked previously the Director of Finance to review to make sure that our rates are in line with other municipalities and common per dues. And I think that, there's a number of other items that other municipalities are looking at these days, and we had quite extensive conversations about that. You'll find when you look across the province that some municipalities are considering technology allowances, the knowledge that council needs to have access to computers or internet, et cetera, in order to carry out their roles. In the District of Summerland, we currently provide council with a Surface tablet at the beginning of a term to be able to do your council business on. By keeping it standard, our IT department can better serve each councillor. With the change with the ability to deduct expenses, any kind of expense that council does have as far as communication expense and internet would then become an allowed deduction, at least part of it. So we're not recommending any additional technology expense. Some councils provide extended health benefits and health insurance to a council. This committee, after extensive conversation, does not recommend that we introduce extended health benefits for council. We, in Summerland, consider the positions of mayor and council to be part-time. It is possible for a mayor or councillor to hold full-time jobs and still carry out your role. Some councils, it is a full-time position. None of the comparables that we have are considered full-time. We don't provide benefits to part-time staff, and we don't believe that it's far enough understood, the ramifications, to introduce it at this time. Also, the other two that are becoming more common, although they're still not widespread, is loss of wage reimbursement and child care benefits. You'll find a number of municipalities have started to implement a reimbursement for child care when participating on out-of-town travel, or loss of wages if it's work-related or self-employed and verified self-employed. There's not very many municipalities that do that yet, but there are some, and I think it's going to warrant further work in the future, or review. But this committee did not bring forward the recommendation to contemplate those at this time. Lastly, I think council did review the remuneration in, I think it was around 2010, and they decided not to do an increase at that time. And it's the committee's recognition that it's difficult for councils, but the longer a council waits to do an increase in compensation to bring yourselves to average, the harder it becomes, because the gap becomes bigger and bigger. And right now, what we've proposed is the average of those 21 municipalities. It's not the high or the 60th percentile, but it's the average. And that concludes. Did you want to add anything? that concludes our recommendations.
Thank you. Thank you. Council, and any questions of our staff? Thank you.
I have a question which I hope is simple. So most of this makes a lot of sense. I have a question regarding the childcare consideration and whether it would require a full review, starting from, how much, the entire thing you've just gone through in order to talk about a childcare benefit, or if it can be a standalone piece that we talk about at this council table sometime in the next, ideally in the next month, but that's not going to happen. So if, I think is it a standalone thing or is it a full review?
No, it absolutely can be a standalone thing, and it can be introduced at any time without a full review. Any of it can. I think my opening comments when I said it's not a science, I think that's really important for council to remember. We could go and we could talk to every single municipality about every piece of it, and you're still not going to be any more informed than you are now, because it's your decision. And so you can get some more data, but it's important because each makes their own decision. So the answer to that question is, if council took a step here but wanted to review it in 1 month or 6 months to determine if they wanted to entertain it, that would be no problem.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes?
I think this is a very thorough review, and I thank the committee for doing this work. I wish it had come a bit earlier. I'm troubled by even discussing this in the middle of an election campaign. I think it's important that we make this decision based on the position and not the people. And once an election's called, we know who the people are, and so it's hard to separate the two. So I'd like to put a motion forward that we defer this matter to the incoming council and we not discuss it.
Is there a seconder?
Second that.
Okay, Councillor Barkle is seconded. Questions and discussion? Councillor Peak?
It's not a question, but after 19 years on council elsewhere, I think there's a real responsibility for a council that is outgoing to review remuneration. I too might feel that it's very close to the time that a new council will come forward, but there is a duty of care, and I think the responsibility lies with the council that is here now. And I believe that the public would understand that responsibility and not think it's for the benefit of particular persons. It's recognition of the fairness and the kind of work that your council is required to do, and the amount of responsibility that they are requested to take ownership of. So I think in honoring the people that have been at this table over the past years, and those that will come to sit at this table, that I won't be able to support this particular motion. I would support moving this particular report forward. I think that is what is necessary for our community.
Just a note on the timing. Although we had hoped to do some work earlier, the majority of our 21 has only within their last council meetings made their, so we would not have had the information on the 2019 until very, very recently. It wasn't, the information wasn't, not that you needed to have that information necessarily, but it is information that can be helpful as well.
Councillor Holmes?
Yeah, it's unfortunate indeed that it didn't come forward earlier, but there's not much we can do about it. And again, I think I just don't think it's something that's appropriate to be discussed during an election campaign.
Councillor Barkle?
I have a question which sort of would inform my decision on this, and that I see about 11 of these communities on the table haven't proposed any sort of increase whatsoever. And I just wondered how many of that was a conscious decision not to increase council remuneration, or they just hadn't dealt with it yet, and we would expect to see some sort of increase, because although I agree 100% with what the CAO says, there's no one-size-fits-all. You have to weigh a lot of different factors. One of the big factors people are looking at is the averages, and I see that the previous, or the average increase of those that did have an increase was about 12%. And, and the average of the group would certainly be much higher if we took out those ones that have had a zero increase. So I'm not sure if we have all the information. One of the factors in this decision is I'm not sure if we have all the information even yet to make the complete comparison.
So the problem, we don't have all the information on, I do have a few more notes, but on whether, it's impossible to know sometimes whether or not a council is going to or not to. So it's true, there's some that have said, we're going to have the incoming council. That's a philosophy that gets debated often. Do you wait for the next, that's what our council said last time. Let's wait for the new council. We don't want to make a decision. And then it never got made with the new council, which is the biggest, where the gap comes from. Some of them, they don't know. Some of them are still going this year. When you look through what happens each day, I know that this week there's a few more going, but never, it's somewhere along the line, because there's no standard place, you'll never get a database where you can say everybody's made their decision, because it needs to be a council's decision, and they don't know necessarily if it's going to come forward or not. So I don't know if we'd get any more information next year or not.
Councillor Traynor.
I understand where Councillor Holmes is coming from, certainly, but I don't really know if there's ever a good time to do this. It's always slightly awkward. But we did have a committee that spent time looking into this, and I'm satisfied with what they've come up with. I think that you could probably debate this forever, and eventually you just kind of have to pick a number, and I think that this number is reasonable. I also think that this is long overdue, and if it brings us in line with what else is going on around the province, then I'm okay with that. So unfortunately, I can't support your motion, but I understand where you're coming from.
Councillor Carlson.
And I also agree with Councillor Peak and Councillor Traynor on this issue. I believe that having the hard work of the committee to make sure that there was as much data as there is, and also that this has been underway for some time, and it wasn't a secret that it was happening. So I do think that I think we need to move this forward, and it would be timely to have done it a month ago, but now is as good a time as any, and 2 months from now may not be a good time. Who knows? We may not be here. So for those that are going to be in office in January 2019, I believe they should receive this as their remuneration.
Any other comments or questions for the CAO, or comments on this resolution that's been brought forward to table? Okay, I would like to make my comments now. I have a question actually for a CAO. When Councillor Barkle was talking about the number of municipalities that hadn't changed from 2018 to 2019, I can't remember how many you said, 11? 11. I'm wondering if, and I don't know how far back the committee went, I wonder if the amount that shows as the 2018 remuneration, if those are reflective of what was in the last, like for 2014, for example, or if there has been increases, prior to 2018, like did you go back any further than that? Because I'm not sure that it's a fair comparison just looking at 2018 versus 2019, because the 2018, that could have been the result of a very recent increase.
I think sometimes that when you do a large sample set like we did, the risk comes that the tendency is then to want to take it and dive even deeper. Most of them, if you read the reports, the last time Summerland changed, they compared it with 6 municipalities, very straightforward municipality where they easily got information. When Lake Country did theirs, I think it was 12. When Central Saanich did theirs, it was 12. So, and they looked just at the year before, and they didn't dig any further. So we didn't look back and trend each municipality. We got notes so some of them, for example, didn't have this up before. For example, one of them is looking at doing a 10% increase the recommendation is for 10%, but this council won't ratify it. They're making the recommendation go forward to the next council. So it shows on here that it's not increasing. One of the other ones is simply waiting for the new council. They don't want to do it. One of them doesn't, and this one, we probably could have made an adjustment. Seashelt, it says it's the same, but there's going to be a 2% increase. I'm not sure why we didn't change that. One of them, there's no change in the amounts, but they're adding a town mileage. But it becomes too much data to be able to speak to all of that, because again, the idea of it is it's supposed to be a gist for council. Council's the policy maker, and you don't operate by saying what do they do or what they do. It's got to be about fair compensation for council and having an idea of what the average is. And that's why we went average and not higher. If we had said 90 percentile, then you would need to know that these numbers were just right on. But even if we change three of these, a few thousand more, the bottom line and the average, where we are isn't going to change. So that's the idea of having such a large sample size.
Councillor Peak.
Yes. I really want to thank the committee. An arm's length committee is very important, and I think that they've done an excellent job in looking into the things that we need to consider. I make note of the financial implications, which is that the total increase would result in $27,815 difference in 2019 for the budget. That is not an extraordinary amount. And again, I think there's courage taken in doing what we need to do in a responsible way for the people that will sit at the table in the future.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Maybe, Director, you could read that again? Nicole will have that.
That the motion for council, the remuneration committee recommendation be deferred to a future council meeting to take place after the 2018 civic elections.
Thank you. So that's the motion on the floor. Are we ready to call a question? Are there any other comments or discussion on this motion? Okay, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is defeated. So from there, did someone want to bring forward another resolution? We haven't. Thank you, Councillor Carlson.
I will bring forward the recommendation as presented in 9.1. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, and I would move that they all be approved.
Seconder, Councillor Traynor, and open for question or discussion. We've had our discussion, I guess. So I will call Councillor Barkwell, thank you.
Yeah, I just would like to say as well that thank the committee for the tremendous amount of work they did on collecting so much data. And I think that the CEO, AO, had a good point, which kind of influences my decisions here in that with a large group like that, 1 or 2 changes in the data set really isn't going to have a big influence in the numbers. So one good reason to have a big group.
Okay, I will call the question then. All in favor of the resolution on the floor? Opposed? Councillor Holmes is opposed. Thank you. And thank you to the committee for all of your hard work in doing this. Okay, there were no resolutions brought forward from this morning. We didn't have any resolutions, did we? I don't think we had any resolutions for the committee of the whole. So on to 10.1, correspondence of information items. Is there anybody that would like to bring forward any of the items that have been received in the correspondence? Councillor Peak.
I'd like to bring forward the staff report on building staff, and I'll bring it forward in recognition of some discussion we had in the past, that it is possible to do admissions and different ways of presenting this information that allow it to be a tool for tracking. And I would like to reiterate that that is hope that can come forward for use.
Thank you, Councillor Peak. Any other correspondence to bring forward tonight? No? Okay, would someone like to bring the resolution forward to receive the correspondence? Thank you, Councillor Peak, and seconded by Councillor Holmes. All in favor? And none opposed? No. Okay. So on to the next item. 10.2 is committee and commission minutes. Those are in your agenda. Does anybody want to bring forward any of the items that are on the committee or commission minutes? Councillor Peak.
I'm not usually putting the page up, but it regards in the cultural committee, there was discussion regarding a workshop and action for the community website. And I know that the action for the community website is something that came about during the discussion of the task force for the cultural plan, and also in the workshop that was most recently done, which three of us, Councillor Holmes, Councillor Root, and myself, attended, that was held at the Arts and Culture Centre. And it was again brought forward as being a very important piece that needs to happen. There were people that were at that workshop, and that particular one had been discussed as far back as 10 and 14 years. So I would hope that when the time comes, as that committee goes forward, that staff actually get that done and it becomes an economic development piece. That would be a way of having it done, and ensuring the website seems to be the place where it would be possible to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Peak. I agree with you on that. I think the arts and culture sector is a potentially a huge community driver here, and to associate them with the Chamber of Commerce in the business sense is a good way to move forward with that. Any other comments on committee minutes or commission minutes? Okay, could someone bring that resolution forward, please? Councillor Traynor, seconded by Councillor Peak. Call the question, all in favor? Any opposed? None. Okay. Next item is the first of the Development Services Report, 11.1. Over to you, Director of Development Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is an application for a development variance permit to allow the construction of an indoor riding ring at 25808 Wild Horse Road. Subject property is about 31.95 hectares in area and is located at the northernmost point of Wild Horse Road, approximately 6.2 kilometers north of downtown Summerland. The surrounding area is predominantly large lot and, of course, all agricultural acreages. The proposal does not require approval of the Agricultural Land Commission, as it is considered a viable farm use. So the applicant has requested to vary the maximum area of an accessory building or structure as prescribed at section 13.2.7B from 100 square meters to 1,487 square meters to facilitate this indoor riding ring. You can see the location shown on the map, and we have additional detail here in terms of the approximate location and a sample of the type of design that is being proposed. I think at this point that concludes my comments. I can read the resolution if you like.
Thank you. Are we ready to bring the resolution forward?
For questions first, no.
So thank you. We'll have questions? Councillor Holmes.
Could you explain to me what the floor would be? Is it just natural turf, like it, or is there a concrete floor, or what's on the bottom?
Yeah, it's my understanding that it would be a natural floor, that it wouldn't be concrete, no. Because a riding ring needs to be soft for the horses. So there's always a material on the floor.
I apologize, Councillor Holmes. Because this is a development variance permit, I am going to ask people in the gallery if there is anybody here that would like to speak, and then we will carry on with questions. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to speak to this development variance permit? The proponent is welcome to speak as well, but as is everyone else. Is there anyone in the gallery? Okay. I'd also like to note that there is correspondence associated with this.
Yes, one letter was received today from Sheila White and Warren Leroy. It's not opposed or supportive of it, it's just voicing some concerns regarding water originating from that property, and asking that staff and council consider that in deliberating the DVP and ensuring that if it does go forward, that be considered as part of the construction. And that has, I believe, been distributed to all of council.
Thank you. Councillor Holmes, would you like to re-ask your question? Okay. Councillor Peak, thank you.
Thank you. So to the planner, if I may, the operation of this particular property has been 30 years in tourism, and they want to extend the length of their season. Am I correct in this?
Yes.
And all the building, we would require building permits as it went forward, so any of the concerns within the letter would be considered at that point?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Councillor Traynor?
So just to follow up on Councillor Peak's comment then, this letter is mainly about water concerns in the area. Historically, have there been any issues that we know of there at all?
Not that I'm aware of in particular, but certainly we'll bring this correspondence to the attention of the building official when he's considering the application.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Holmes.
So a structure this size is considered a permitted farm use by the commission, but what if the property was sold and that building was used for another purpose? Would it have to be, what sort of change of use process would have to be undertaken, and does the size of the building matter for the different types of uses in the ALR?
Madam Mayor, certainly, as long as the zoning remains agricultural and the land remains an agricultural land reserve, the land use regulations will stand, and any proposed future use of that building would have to be consistent with those land use regulations. If there was a change to a non-farm use, an application would go forward to the Agricultural Land Commission and for consideration pursuant to our zoning bylaw. It's difficult to imagine what a riding ring might be used otherwise for, but I'm certain it's not beyond the possibility, so I appreciate the question, but until we receive an application, we really can't postulate what the outcome might be. Thank you.
Councillor Peak.
I'd like to bring the motion forward. The development variance permit application for DL 3951 on plan KAP 611-12 to vary the sections of the zoning bylaw be approved. The maximum area of the accessory building or structure as prescribed at the section is varied from 100 square meters to 1487 square meters to facilitate the construction of an indoor riding ring.
And the seconder, please. Councillor Traynor. Any further discussion on this development variance permit? Councillor Carlson.
Yeah, just reading and thinking a little bit about the letter that's received from the neighbor, and I think that we need to I understand that it would go to the building official, but I do wonder if it'd be worth perhaps it being received or reviewed by an engineer or by someone else, if that would be a common practice, or if it is a great enough concern to actually make sure it's done properly.
If it warranted further review, the building inspector would insist on that happens often, that something comes to the building inspector, and if it's out of their level of expertise or a big enough concern, they would make that a condition to engage the professional.
Good, thank you. Then I would be in favor of this going forward.
Any other questions or comments, discussion before we call the question? Okay, I will call the question then. All those in favor of the development variance permit? Any opposed? Resolution is carried. Thank you. On to 11.2, development permit for strata lot 4, DL 4455, ODYD, etc., 104-6114 Faircrest Street, and over to the development, Director of Development Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is an application for a high-hazard development permit for the construction of a single detached dwelling. Subject property is located in a Bearland Strata subdivision development at the end of Faircrest Street. I believe you have considered applications on adjacent properties for similar types of development. However, at this time, because development permits remain the purview of council, we were required to bring the application forward for consideration. The requirements of the development permit will be entirely based on the recommendations of the suitably qualified professional for high hazard development, so that would be the geotechnical report. So it is a fairly straightforward application in that sense, and the requirements will be set out in the permit and will need to be followed throughout the construction process.
Thank you. Any questions of the Director of Development Services from council? Would someone like to bring the resolution forward then, please? Councillor Peak?
I will bring the resolution forward for the development permit for Strata Lot 4, DL 455, together with an interest in the common property in proportion to the unit entitlement of the strata lot as shown on at 6114 Faircrest Street, 104, to construct a single detached dwelling within the high hazard development permit area be approved.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Barkwell? Any further discussion or comments? No? I just have one question of our Director of Development Services. This is for construction of a single detached dwelling. I just wanted to check, and it maybe I've got an old copy or something. The conclusion of that report, with my agenda, it shows page 65 of 135 pages, refers to the construction of a driveway.
I see your reference, and I believe that's an oversight.
Okay.
Yes, it is for a single.
It is for single-family dwelling. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I will call the question if there are no more questions or discussion. All those in favor of the application? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. On to Development Service Report. No, sorry, we're done with those. On to Staff and Other Reports. 12.1, Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, Emergency Social Services.
Mr. Noble.
Chief Noble, thank you.
Yes, Madam Mayor, before council is a staff report that is seeking council direction to prepare a grant application and submit to the UBCM towards the Community Emergency Preparedness Fund and specifically for emergency social services. The funding stream is provincially funded and administered by the UBCM. This is specific to the emergency social services component of emergency management within the District of Summerland. And this funding, if approved, would help to, would purchase new computer equipment for the ESS group, storage supplies, and other necessities that will help enhance their capability of providing service to the community. The funding request in the grant would be $7,891 and is 100% funded by the grant.
And I'd just like to add, I think council's probably aware of this, but in Summerland, we're extremely fortunate. I think Chief Noble has it in his report, but it's worth saying, we're very fortunate to have a strong ESS committee as we do, that operate on really limited resources as it is, but all the times that we've had to do evacuations, and some of the times that RDOS needs to do evacuations, they're there, they're organized, they know what they're doing, and we can rely on them.
Councillor Barkwell, followed by Councillor Traynor.
I was just going to put the motion forward, the resolution as written.
I'll second it.
Thank you. On the floor and seconded. Any discussions or questions of our fire chief? Councillor Peak.
Or a comment, I know I spoke with John Topham, who's the leader of this particular group. He was very pleased to have the inclusion of this possibility.
Any other, nothing to contribute? Okay, I will call a question. All those in favor of this resolution? And any opposed? None. It's carried, thank you. On to 12.2, water budget revision, water treatment plant centrifuge dewatering design. CAO?
Mr. Johnson?
Over to Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to give a bit of background to council first, so in 2017, a study of the residuals handling process of the water treatment plant was completed. From this, it recommended replacing the current system, which pumps the processed wastewater from the water treatment plant up to the drying beds at the landfill, to replace that with a centrifuge and a dewatering system. So in 2018, the capital plan for our water utility included $100,000 to complete a conceptual design of this facility and this dewatering process. However, during this year, some mechanical and process changes were made to reduce the amount of water that was coming out of that process piece. And because of that, it's reduced the urgency to complete the conceptual design for that component. So as a result, staff is looking to reallocate these funds to address two other concerns with the water treatment plant, and move forward with looking at those this year. So one is the elimination of the use of chlorine gas in the treatment process, and the second one is to increase the amount of treated water storage that we have at the plant. So touching on the chlorine gas, so due to the safety risks that are associated with handling and storage of chlorine gas, we're recommending that we look at other options for disinfection in our process. One of those would be liquid sodium hypochlorite, so looking at a liquid solution that's mixed into the water versus the chlorine gas. So with this, we do a detailed review of the safety, containment, corrosiveness, and the capital and operating costs of that change. With the treated water storage, one of the big challenges we have with the plant is the varying amount of, the variation in flows from summer to winter months. In the summer months, our flows can exceed 75,000 cubic meters of water per day. That's about 20 to 30 times higher than what we see in the winter. So as a result of that, our clear well, which is where the treated water is stored at the water treatment plant, is only about 4,500 cubes. So that water in itself is cycled numerous times throughout the day. It's only 6% of that total daily volume that we'll see in the maximum day. So as a result, if we have a shutdown or an issue with the plant, operators have minutes to respond and deal with, figure out what the problem is and deal with it and get that plant up and running and back online before that clear well is depleted. A backup to that, like in that situation, we have a supplemental line which introduces untreated but chlorinated water into the system. That kicks in when the clear water gets down to 25% of its volume. So if that were to occur, and it did one time this year already, a water quality advisory or a boil water notice is required until the system can be properly tested and vetted to ensure that that untreated water has made its way through the system or is diluted enough that it's safe to drink. So to address this, staff's recommending completing a feasibility study and a pre-design report to assess options at the water treatment plant to increase that volume of treated water storage. Questions?
Councillor Barkwell.
I suppose the study would be to find out how much larger storage would cost. But I even wonder if it's going to cost millions of dollars, is it really worth it to even study the issue to save one, boil water advisory a year?
Well, we had one this year, but there are numerous close calls where, like I said, during the winter or during the summer months when there is an issue, it could easily be many more than the one we've had. So just to increase that reliability of our system and that operation. So, but one of the challenges will be during the winter months where we have lower flows, like significantly lower flows, is establishing a system where we're not creating problems by having too much treated water storage as well, where that volume doesn't get cycled enough over a period of time and becomes stagnant. So it would be evaluating that, but it's something that's been identified since the plant has been in operation. It's been a continual challenge of operators since day one, and so we feel it's important to assess it to see what those options and costs would be.
So this would look at, this money would look at both the two different studies?
Yeah, we're looking for
50,000 each, or?
I don't know what the split would be between them. But
Councillor Holmes.
But I think Councillor Barkwell raises a good point in principle. It'd be a good idea to have some sort of ballpark idea of how much some of these projects cost before we decide to devote staff time to even considering them. Just speaking generally,
I think, Chris, you may want to speak a little bit more about the risk associated or why you feel so strongly that.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to the reliability of our system and the original design of the water treatment plant. It was designed in a way that it included future separation projects which would help eliminate that demand. And it was set at a point where the daily demands in the summer were exceeding that, the design level that it's at now. So it's the potential risks when you go into a boil water notice. There are places that try to avoid those at all costs. That being said, I think looking at, we do have room at the plant, on the site and at the water treatment plant, so there is ability there to look at how we can expand this. And to say that it's going to be millions of dollars, I guess that's what we need to determine is what those options would be, and just think it's worth reallocating these funds this year to have a look at that and to see what the options may be.
I think you underestimated, I think when you said the boat having one boil water notice this year, something that I've certainly heard from you and your staff, is how many times we've just dodged near misses on more boil water, something that needed to attend to that has led you to feel that this is a very important item to be looking at.
Yeah, and something that's hard to quantify, I think, is the time and effort and dollars that go in following a boil water notice. Once it's issued, is all the testing, the flushing, the follow-up that occurs, plus the impact to all the users within the system. That's something that's difficult to quantify.
It will become a very difficult decision once you do have your study completed.
Councillor Peak.
Yes, I appreciate the fact that the dewatering has had some address because it's something that the community thought was needed for quite some time. So I'm pleased that there were some changes that allows this a different opportunity. I'm wondering if you could please speak to the challenges or the risks involved with the chlorine gas and the changes.
Yeah, so just the risks in handling and storing chlorine gas. Chlorine gas is heavier than air, so if there is a leak, it'll settle into the lower areas. And where our water treatment plant is situated, up on the back hill in the valley, if there were a substantial or a significant leak it would make its way down into the valley and could pose significant risk to the public in that area. Also, staff having to deal with that system whenever there is an issue or a leak are required to put in to don a fully encompassed suit as well as CBA or SCBA to get into the chlorine room to deal with that issue. So that's why there are a lot of water treatment plants across the province and across the country that have gone away from chlorine gas just for those safety precautions, because there are other options that are just as effective and just as feasible.
Thank you. And if I may have another question. In looking at the fact that part of your storage is based on the fact that you may or may not need future separation, would a larger storage, water storage, then perhaps negate some future separation?
No, I think separating the system has numerous benefits. One of them, though, is reducing the demand on the treatment plant. So that's just one component.
It's just
but
a
no,
fall
it wouldn't delay or negate the factor, the need to look at separating those other systems in the future.
Thank you.
Councillor Traynor.
Just trying to understand this. Would you be able to just explain one more time, very briefly, the issue at the treatment plant? And is it a design flaw, or is it, what's your opinion on that?
So when it was designed to have about 4,500 cubic meters of stored water. So, but one of the interesting challenges that Summerland has is the variation in the amount of water that's required in winter versus summer. So when designing the plant, they had to determine what a reasonable treated storage volume would be that would provide enough storage in the summer when flows are really high, but not be too much in the winter when, like I said, it can be as little as 30 times difference between that. So we have daily flows in the winter of around 3,000 cubes a day. So that water in that clear well would be cycled every day and a half.
Yeah.
Right. So it was trying to find when it was designed. It was trying to find that balance between those two very significantly different operating scenarios.
Okay.
Councillor Peak.
I'll bring the motion forward as stated.
And the seconder, please. Councillor Traynor. I just have one comment. It seems to me that knowing that we had one boil water advisory and hearing that we kind of narrowly missed because of the expertise of our staff, that we narrowly missed a number of other ones, given that our kind of number one service priority to the residents of Summerland is potable drinking water, I think that this is something that really we should encourage to go forward. Councillor Peak?
Yes, if I may ask of the CFO, David, this is just a straight exchange, so we won't be doing the project we planned, we'll be doing this project. There's no expectation that will exceed the amount of money that was set aside.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I will call the question then. All in favor of the motion as presented? Opposed? None. Carried. Thank you. Okay. On to item 12.3, LED streetlight retrofit project update.
I'll provide a brief update. You've got the report in your package. Tammy is away right now at a solar conference. We just included this report about the streetlight project just to bring it to the attention since it is starting this week. We did issue a press release last week on this same thing. One of the things that we wanted to make sure council's aware of, in case you get questions, is that in some areas, as the lights are switched out, the new lights may appear to be brighter. And in some cases, they're going to be somewhat brighter because when they did the audit, they recognized that some areas were underlit by general standards, and so they're trying to have conformity. However, if residents had concern that an area was overly bright, they should be contacting us directly. There are occasionally times that the hoods need to be adjusted somewhat, and there's changes that can be made. So it's kind of exciting that it's happening, and it'll be now happening from now till mid-October, and that's all we need to say.
Councillor Peak?
I was going to say that two things. One, that this would seem to me a good thing to be able to put in a newsletter so that if people have concerns about a particular area, they know they could phone in, and if the lighting was a difficulty and the hood, whatever, if that could go in a newsletter. And I note that it talks about staff will review converting the decorative lights to LEDs and may bring a proposal forward to council. I know that this council has looked at the opportunity but not been able to get at it for the review of downtown plan, and that may provide an opportunity for community input. But at any rate, if that didn't occur, then I would hope that there was some community consultation on that as well.
Thank you. Anyone else from council want to make a comment or ask a question? Okay, could you, thank you, Mr. Holmes, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Carlson is seconding. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? None, carried. On to item 12.4, audit materiality. Our CFO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in the early spring, council asked questions around the district's audit materiality level. So staff reached out to other municipalities in order to gauge what their materiality levels were at. We received 7 responses, ranging from 0.75% to 5%, and that's based on consolidated revenues. Staff was then further directed to provide more information specific to those 7 respondents. The additional questions that we asked were how many years that the auditor had been working for that organization, what level of internal controls the organization had, and whether there were any extenuating circumstances that affected the materiality calculations. The table in the council report summarizes the data that we collected. On average, the average, and I had it here and don't clear this. The average without Summerland was 2.44%, or sorry, 2.37% materiality, and with Summerland was 2.44% from the 8 respondents. One didn't come back and actually respond to our second round of questioning, so we did find another respondent to help fill the gap. Based on my review of the district's materiality levels over the past 4 years, the overall increases are in line with what was expected. Our auditors have noted that the district's internal financial controls and processes are quite strong. In my professional opinion as a CPA, as the Director of Finance, and as a former auditor running municipal audits, I feel materiality threshold used by MNP, who's our auditors for 2017, which was based on 3% of consolidated revenues, is both reasonable and practical. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of our CFO? May I have someone bring the resolution? Oh,
Yeah.
Councillor Barkwell.
The current auditors have 1 more year left on their budget. They'll be back again this spring.
Yes, we're on a 5-year contract, and we're going into year 5.
Councillor Carlson and
I'll
then Councillor
move-
Peak.
Oh,
Sorry.
I was going to move the report. Do you have a question? Yeah. I'll move that the report from the Director of Finance regarding audit materiality be received for information.
Second? Councillor Peak? And Councillor Peak, thank you.
Comment. I want to thank the CFO for the clarification and the extra questions. I appreciate the time that was taken and the review that was made.
Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, I'll call the question on the resolution on the floor. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. On to 12.5, Dog Control Officer Services Contract Award.
Thank you. So this is a request for council to consider issuing a new contract. The existing contract has been in effect for almost 7 years now to have a dog control officer enforce and encourage compliance with our dog control bylaw. The existing contractor has been amazing, but she is done with this line of business at the end of this month. The District of Summerland and the City of Penticton collaborated on issuing an RFP to encourage proponents to either apply independently or at the same time to the City of Penticton and Summerland, because we have worked so closely historically together and we do share a dog pound in Penticton. So we had a couple of proponents. Both of them are more costly than the existing expiring contract, and staff evaluated both proponents based on the matrix in the RFP and concur with the evaluation that Elizabeth Bigg is the preferred choice. She has incredible experience, training, and references. So staff are recommending that Elizabeth Bigg be selected as the preferred proponent to take on dog control.
Councillor Peak and then Councillor Holmes.
Yes, I have a question, if I may. Does this total contract include the Penticton, use of the Penticton Dog Pound facility?
No, that's a separate agreement directly between the District of Summerland and Penticton.
Thank you. I make note of the fact that communities working together is very typical, and I think this is a good opportunity. I wonder if we might also extend our thanks. I know this person was paid that used to do the job, but a thanks for the kind of work she did, because she was well received in our community.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, I just want to kind of follow on to that. It doesn't include the pounding then. So what exactly does the dog control contract include?
It does include management of the pound as well. So if a dog is impounded, this person would take care of that dog at that facility. And we have a number of pens actually dedicated to Summerland, so it includes the feeding and so forth, cleaning and caretaking facility. But it is an ongoing complaints-driven role. We have roughly 1,100 dog licenses in 2018, and perhaps some more that are unlicensed, and we do receive regular complaints. Some of them are formal complaints, some of them are simply requests to talk to somebody on a more civil matter, so trying to ease neighborhoods. So it is a fairly busy position.
So essentially, it's to pay for a person's time.
Correct.
Okay, so we're paying 65. How much time are we talking about here? And I'm not suggesting, maybe now, but we look for the next time it's come up, if it might be worth our while for us to hire somebody at $65,000 a year. I don't know if this is a full-time work, but we might be better off having our own dog catcher.
Yeah, I should have said it's mostly for their time. It's also for the vehicles, insurance, liability insurance, fuel, supplies, pens, food, and all the things that go with that job. And it tends to be a rather specialist position, and part of the reasoning for working with Penticton on it is that they and the RDOS as well have had trouble finding someone qualified to do it and willing to continue to do it in the long term, because it is a very challenging position. Many people drop out of it after doing it for a while because of the stresses of it. So finding someone who's willing to do both Penticton and Summerland is a real win for both. And they are long days, they are weekends as well, and on call as need be.
But I think that's the key that you said, that answered, Councillor Holmes would more accurately answer his questions, is the other expense. Although it's time, it is the mileage and the vehicle. Absolutely. And everything in between. So if you were to take out how much was the actual fee, I'm not sure because I haven't looked, but it's probably half or something.
Yeah, and some revenues related to it actually come back to the district as well, so that hasn't been talked about in here, but they handle much of the licensing and fees. And it is, because it's a contract, there's actually a proposal from them to have 2 people and 2 vehicles to ensure constant coverage.
It's very difficult with requests for proposals when it comes forward to council, because we can't give the detail of the breakdown when a person makes a proposal to provide a service, because it's proprietary information. You can provide some, but you can't provide the details, and yet council with our purchasing policy is responsible if it's over a certain amount to do the approval. So it's something that when we're looking at redoing the purchasing policy, that we have to have some conversation about, because you're sort of left in the dark. Not when it's a tender, it's perfectly fine, but it's when it's a proposal that becomes difficult.
Councillor Peak?
My understanding would be this position would be a 7-day-a-week coverage. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Councillor, Councillor Barkwell?
I had the same questions as Councillor Holmes, but I think I feel satisfied now. Think about the call-outs that they must get evenings and weekends and such. And I would note that dog control has been a long time a problem in Summerland. I've had dog tag from 1910. Who would think you would need to have dog control in 1910 in Summerland?
Old dog.
Councillor Traynor?
Does the money from dog licenses contribute to this? To the
It's not funded directly in that way, but I believe that's part of the thinking of dog licensing, is that it's designed to offset, but perhaps the CFO can speak more to that.
Dog licensing is collected in the general fund, and this contract would be funded through the general fund, so it doesn't directly pay for it, but it's a component of it.
And it is as we get more stability in all of our departments, that is exactly it's the same as garbage collection. It's the same concept is that if you have license fees, you want to cover the cost of the service through the license fees. So whether or not we're matched up right now is some a fees and services review that needs to happen in the future, but absolutely that would be the idea of it.
Okay.
Would someone bring the resolution? Thank you, Councillor Holmes. And seconded by Councillor Traynor.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? None? Okay, no new business, so on to 14.1, bylaws, permissive tax exemption 2017, places of worship bylaw amendment, bylaw number 2018-028.
And this is the resolution that's brought forward from last week's direction from council, where you made the decisions and passed a resolution. Are you going to speak to it further?
I can speak quickly. It is for the 3 churches that were deemed to have lands in excess of what was required to provide services. So the Christian and Missionary Alliance, Julia Street Church, and the St. John's Lutheran Church. So the permissive tax exemptions would apply for 2019, 20, and 21 calendar years, with the exemptions being 70%, 50%, and 25% in those respective years. So there's a budget or there's a bylaw amendment in front of council.
It's for second and third. Do we have them separately, or?
I prefer council to do them separately.
Okay.
Could I just ask a question?
Yes.
For clarification? Just in the report under financial implications, you have the chart there of the estimated values of the, and I don't quite follow it with the numbers of the 70, 50, and 25%, and why they're not, like, wouldn't the 25% 2021 wouldn't that be half of the 2020?
The way BC Assessment has assessed that piece of property and the calculations that they use, because land and buildings are viewed differently, there's a very complex calculation that needs to take place. So we used actually the spreadsheets that BC Assessment provided us, and we basically took those numbers through. We also did take into account, from an estimation perspective, a 2% tax rate increase over those periods as well.
But to be clear, the actual bylaw is the 70, 50, and 25%, and so it'll be of actual values when the time comes. So those are a projection of values based on their formulas, but the actual amounts will be those percentages.
Okay, so those amounts include the statutory exemptions? Or
No, those are just the permissive exemptions.
The total.
Yeah.
Correct.
But
The 70%, the 50%, and the 25% in each year.
to follow up then, the last time we looked at numbers, they were much, for the Julia Street and St. John's, I believe that they were much smaller. Not. We're looking at numbers of like $400 and $700. If I missed something.
Those were municipal portion of taxes. The numbers you have in this report are full scale, including the school tax, including all taxes, RUS taxes, not just District of Summerland taxes.
Okay, thank you.
So under law, that's what we're required to put out in our advertising is the full amount of taxes.
Okay, Councillor Carlson?
No, I think that these numbers are a lot larger than the numbers that we saw before and we talked about before. Unless I missed something, they're not part of the original conversation. We were talking about $400 before, now we're talking about $3,000.
Correct, so the $400, so when we look at a tax bill, if we have a $4,000 tax bill, for instance, the district share would be the $400. The RUS would have a share of $800. There's school tax associated, there's numerous different taxes that come into effect.
I understand that. So if the district were to only collect 30% of the permissive, it's 30% of the entire, and we forgive 70% of the entire. Therefore, the church is still paying, $3,000, they're not paying $400, right? They're still on the hook for a larger sum, because they have to pay the permissive to us and to the regional district and to the hospital and to the schools and to everybody else. We can't just take our piece away.
We can just quickly pull up the report from last time and see what values are in there to see if it's roughly, yeah, one of them was $400, but that might be the $2,400, it might be the Julia Street. That was at the last regular council meeting?
Yes.
Sorry, I have a problem giving a tax bill of $4,800 to the Alliance Church. And I don't understand what this is telling me. So they're going, that's how much they won't.
That's what they don't have.
That's what they've done. That's the amount of the exemption.
That's what they are being exempt.
So how much are they paying?
30%.
That's the total, or that's the exemption?
No, that's just what they're being exempt.
Right, so then they're paying 30%, okay. Then I think I understand. That makes a lot more sense.
What's in the tables is what they're being exempt.
Right,
So they don't have it.
okay, thank you.
So you think, you are okay with that?
That makes sense. It's, I would like to see those numbers on there with it so that we understand what they are paying, but,
Yep.
yeah, it's just backwards to what we looked at before.
So, all good then? Any other questions on this for our CFO? Councillor Peak?
I'll bring the first portion forward. The permissive tax exemption 2017 places of worship bylaw be introduced and read a first and second time.
Seconded by Councillor Holmes. Any further discussion? I'll call the question for part 1 of the resolution. All those in favor? Opposed? None carried. Councillor Peak, could you bring forward the second part?
Yes, I shall. That the places of worship bylaw be read for a third time.
Seconded by Councillor Traynor. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? No. And carried. On to item 14.2, and again, this is two separate resolutions. Unisys International Schools Society Permissive Tax Exemption Amendment Bylaw Number 2018-029. CFO.
This is in regards to the society that is operating in a private school out of the old Glenford property. Due to the ownership structure, the society was not able to qualify for the statutory exemption. Therefore, they applied for and received a one-year permissive tax exemption from the district for the 2019 calendar year. And the estimated 2019 taxes being foregone were $37,353.
Any questions of our CFO? Councillor Carlson.
I noticed that this morning there was a note on the door that said that there was no property tax sale. Did that include the Glenford School, or does that come up next year?
No, to get on that list, you have to have delinquent taxes in 3 years.
Could I ask someone on council to bring the resolution forward, please? Councillor Peak?
Again, do you want to split into two?
Yes, please.
Permissive tax exemption amendment for Unisys International Schools be introduced and read a first and second time.
Seconder, Councillor Holmes. Any further questions or discussions? All those in favor? Opposed? None carried. Councillor Peak?
That the same amendment be read for a third time.
Seconded by Councillor Holmes. All those in favor? Opposed? None carried. On to 14.3, OCP amendment for 21201 Highway 40, bylaw number 2018-013, and zoning bylaw amendment for 20201 Highway 40, bylaw number 2018-014.
And this is just an adoption.
Okay, do we have to do them separately, or can we do them together?
No, you can do them together.
Okay. Someone like to bring, thank you,
I'll move
Councillor Carlson.
14.3 forward to be adopted.
Seconded by Councillor Peak. Any discussions or comments? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Done? Adopted. Number 14.4, zoning bylaw amendment 19233 Lakeshore Drive, bylaw number 2018-021. This relates to the public hearing that we had earlier this evening. Director of Development Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you saw earlier today, we looked at these location map, and the specific application is to change the zoning designation from RSD1, residential medium lot, to residential duplex housing. Both of those are designations under the low-density residential designation, so there has been no change to the OCP in that regard. Both of these fit under that designation. The proposed layout that is before you shows that it is possible to achieve the other zoning bylaw requirements with respect to parking, setbacks to property lines, and whatnot.
Thank you. Questions for our Director of Development Services? Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, as it was noted that Crescent Beach is outside the urban growth area. And I'm just wondering if you could, if the planner could explain what does that mean to be outside the urban growth area, and how would it apply in rezoning?
Madam Mayor, I'm not as familiar with the discussion clearly that has preceded me with respect to the urban growth area, but certainly the low-density residential designation under our official community plan is common to all communities. It is entirely possible to have multiple dwellings on a single parcel of land and still achieve the density defined as low-density residential. So aside from the question of where additional urban growth might occur and where densification of the nature of apartment dwellings, et cetera, that would certainly be a significant change. But low-density duplexes is generally consistent with that. I saw no reason to question that. This application was initiated in the spring, well before I came to the district, so unfortunately I don't have a lot of history on the application. Certainly it is less than the lot size that would be created upon subdivision, but it is a lot that was created, as was noted previously, many decades ago, and as such is eligible to be rezoned to this zone. So it is council's decision whether you choose to proceed with that or not.
Councillor Holmes?
Just as a follow-up, as also was noted, the reason it's not included in, Crescent Beach isn't included in the urban growth area is because of concerns about fire exit and emergency. And I noticed the comments were circulated to different departments, and but I don't see if it was circulated to the fire department, and I just want to know if it was received by, reviewed by the fire department, and if they had any comments.
Madam Mayor, again, that recirculation occurred long before I came, but it is part of the standard referral process that all of the departments receive the referrals, and we actually have a technical advisory committee at the staff level that meets to discuss the applications. So that discussion would have occurred at that committee level.
Thank you. And you can confirm that?
That's the process.
That's the process. Okay. Any other questions about this? Councillor Traynor?
I just have a question about duplexes. Other than the fact that they become two separate units, the actual building itself, it still has to be the same, like it's still subject to the same lot or size as a house would be. Is that right? Like maximum size on a lot?
Yes, the requirements under the zoning bylaws still apply. There is setbacks to property lines, maximum site coverage. It's specific to that zone, and in that particular zone, there are different requirements depending on whether it is a single detached or a duplex, but they are relatively similar in terms of their impact on the surrounding properties, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Councillor Peak.
Yes, if I may, to the planner. If there's a decision to allow this application to move forward, does it in fact set precedent for planning?
Madam Mayor, it is entirely council's discretion each time an application comes before council as to the decision that they choose to make. We obviously bring these applications so that you have the opportunity to make a site-specific determination of the appropriateness of the application. And so as such, it is not like civil law where the court requires you to follow a precedent. It is on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you. That was my understanding. I just wanted clarification.
Thank you. Councillor Carlson?
Thank you. Further to this discussion, a couple questions. So would the lot that we see highlighted in yellow, would subdividing that into two lots be the alternative if this were not to go ahead, and would that still fit the OCP and the designation of low density?
Madam Mayor, I have not done the calculations or reviewed, but certainly the type of subdivision that would be consistent with the creation of a duplex is one that is becoming increasingly popular in areas where there are urban services in order to maximize the efficiency of the existing built-up areas and to reduce the the pressure, if you will, on those, what we would refer to in planning as greenfield sites elsewhere. So we want to concentrate and be really efficient where we are in terms of the actual math of how that would work out in terms of density calculations without sitting down and going through that exercise. I really can't say, but it's certainly not inconsistent with the type of development that we're starting to see in more traditional low-density areas where larger lots used to be the norm. They are shrinking, and in fact, we are finding that we're going back to the same type of subdivision pattern as we saw when the town sites were first subdivided at the turn of the previous century. So it's not uncommon. It's an interesting trend to watch as time goes by, the ebb and flow as preferences change.
So just to follow on that, and you may not know, but if, is there a minimum width of a lot required in order to build a dock?
To build a dock, that I do not know. I do not believe so.
These things have all come up, and I just,
yeah,
I'm not sure what would be worse or better. To subdivide a lot into two and have two docks, or to have one?
It's under provincial designation at this point. Certainly, the province encourages people to have communal docks, and that's something that's a whole other large question.
Councillor Barclay?
This is a 50-foot lot, right?
Correct.
And so our current zoning wouldn't allow a 25-foot lot, would it?
Not this particular designation, no.
So it would have to come to council if they're going to do anything like that?
Correct.
Councillor Peak?
It may be restating it, but in terms of if it stayed as a single-family dwelling, the massing of that building and the requirements for setbacks would be very similar whether it was a duplex or a single-family dwelling.
Correct.
Any other questions of council? I have one question of the planner. It's somebody from the gallery was concerned about what kind of regulations there are in place to make sure that the drawing as presented is what actually happens. Would you comment on that, please?
Certainly. When you have low-density residential as the designation, the Local Government Act does not presently give us the opportunity to require a development permit that would essentially contract with the property owner to build a very specific design. If it were designated for intensive residential development, we would have that opportunity. So, in fact, we would have more control if it were, in fact, designated for higher density development. The trade-off there is that you get more control over design. The feeling is with low density development that level of design is not warranted, or that design control is not warranted, and certainly it goes beyond our ability under our current legislation.
Okay. That's something that we've heard, the phrase form and character?
Correct.
Yes, okay. Any other questions? Oh, Councillor Traynor.
I think I know the answer to this, but I just want to confirm. If this were to be approved, they couldn't do two carriage houses then on that lot, in addition to the 2 units?
No, my understanding is that zone allows carriage houses only accessory to single detached dwellings.
Okay,
So if there was a single detached dwelling, if for example, it was rezoned, they could still build, if it was sold, someone could still build a single detached dwelling there, and in that case, they could possibly have a carriage home, in which case you would have 2 dwelling units on a single piece of land. The result would be essentially the same.
Okay, but you couldn't have 2 units plus a carriage?
No, not under the proposed zoning.
Okay.
Councillor Peak.
I'll bring the bylaw forward, bylaw amendment for Lakeshore Drive 19233 be read a third time. Am I doing this separate? You want it?
Yeah, that would be good to do it separate.
Okay, so that be read a third time.
Seconder? We don't have do we have anyone seconding this resolution? Well, I'll second it just so that we have the discussion. Let's have further discussion on this. Councillor Barkwell.
The thing that's troubling me on this decision is the fact that the carriage home on a single-family residence would make it quite similar to a duplex. That factor, point, or whatever, puts it really close to like, well, why not? But I think the very first speaker who spoke about the character of the area and how, everybody who builds a new house to replace these older places there builds to the max, and that in itself is changing the area, and somewhere you've got to draw the line, and I think duplex is more appropriate densification in the downtown core area than waterfront lakeshore homes like down at Crescent Beach, so I'll be voting against this.
Councillor Holmes.
I guess what troubles me is the fact that it's outside the urban growth area, and how you define urban growth. That's what I'm struggling with. Would this be considered urban growth or not? Maybe not just this one unit, but if you could envision duplexes all over Crescent Beach, I think that definitely would be urban growth. And maybe the next time the OCP is reviewed, we should look at whether Crescent Beach should be in the urban growth area or not. But for now, it's not, and I guess there was a reason for why it wasn't put in there. So I think we should respect that reason. So I'll be voting against.
Councillor Carlson?
Yeah, just to state that I agree with both Councillor Barkwell and Holmes. I think we don't need whether or not it does set a precedent, I don't know, but I think it's something that needs to be thought about and realized as we look at OCPs in the future. I'm assuming we're going to that will be looked at by the district at some time shortly, and talking about Crescent Beach and talking about Trout Creek and talking about what those neighborhoods currently look like and will look like, and what the neighborhood and the people who live there want to see, I think is very important.
Councillor Traynor?
From what I recall, I believe it was left out of the OCP because there was concerns around fire access if it were to become dense, because there's only really one way in and out. That's what I remember. Yeah.
Anyone else? Councillor Peak?
Yes, I make recourse to, as the planner said, one of the things that we look at in terms of how we acquire the money that we need to renew the infrastructure that we have is through collection of taxes, and the use of lands that are already serviced and the infilling of those lands is considered an opportunity, and this council has considered that as an opportunity. So I put that as out for contemplation as well.
Anyone else? I'll have to admit I'm struggling with this one. I certainly think that with us taking the Crescent Beach area out of the urban growth area, again, there was a reason for doing that. The OCP is something that we have struggled with, considerably in the last couple of years, and it may or may not be time to revisit that. Perhaps neighborhood plans need to be looked at who really knows? I also understand the need for housing and to have this opportunity to densify somewhat. So I'm really torn, and I'm not really sure how I'm going to vote on this, but it's, there are pluses and minuses on each side. I do have concerns about the access and egress in and out of Crescent Beach, especially because the banks tend to fall occasionally, so. Councillor Traynor.
I share your exact thoughts. I think this is a difficult one, but I think we also have to consider the feedback that we got. We had several neighbors come forward and express their viewpoints, so I think we all need to think about that as well.
Okay, any other comments on this before we vote? Councillor Peak.
I make note of the fact that as staff have informed us, the Technical Advisory Committee would have reviewed this, and there was no particular note made of the difficulty for the fire department or emergency. I know that we tend to look at things in somewhat slightly different manner, but I'm sure that our staff would have felt that if there was a need, that they would have made a comment on it.
I think it comes from the perspective that, from a planning perspective and discussion with others, is that it's not moving to urban density, that it still maintains a low density by duplex. So the discussion that the TPC would have had is that adding a duplex or adding multiple duplexes wouldn't, in typical terms, and I think that's.
So it's a threshold.
Right.
Thank you very much for that clarification.
Councillor Holmes.
Just on that though, but with the absence of specific numbers of what those thresholds are and everything like that, it's kind of subjective, and I guess that's why we're here.
Absolutely, and Corey speaking from a professional planner and her position, but it's certainly subjective to council, and that is absolutely council's prerogative to make that determination.
So are we ready for the question? Okay, all those in favor of it being read a third time? Opposed? The bylaw amendment is defeated, and there's no need to go into adoption.
Yeah, you don't even, the third reading.
Okay, on to 14.5, zoning bylaw amendment 9304, Jubilee Road East, bylaw number 2018-022. Director Development Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you will recall from earlier this evening, this is an application to amend Section 11.7 CM heavy commercial zone to allow for recreation service indoor as a site-specific use for the property located at 9304 Jubilee Road East. So this will allow the operation to occur that has been ongoing there.
Thank you. Any questions of the Director of Development Services? Councillor Carlson.
Just to, when you look at recreational service indoor as a use in a heavy commercial zone, I'm just wondering if there's any, in terms of like insurance or, it doesn't change the zoning, it just allows something within that zone.
Correct.
Does it affect the heavy commercial use at all?
If there were any impacts, that from a safety perspective, I'm assuming is what your concern is.
Either way.
Yeah, they would be identified through the business licensing process and through the fire inspection process, for example. Because this use needs a fairly large enclosed space, this is why this is a good location for them. It's difficult to get that type of use in a different type of zone.
Good, thank you. I will move the motion as presented.
For third reading?
Third reading, first, third reading, yes.
Okay, and Councillor Holm is seconding.
Second the third reading.
Any further discussion or questions of the planner? Councillor Peak?
I did attend that property and I walked on it. I think it's very fitting for the application.
Did it work out?
Certainly in a recreational area, isn't it? Okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor? Any opposed? None? The motion is carried. 14.7 zoning bylaw amendment, 12817 and 12801 Kelly Avenue, bylaw number 2018-025. Director of Development Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, this is an application to consider zoning amendment from CD7 Comprehensive Development Zone to MX1 Zone to support the construction of mixed commercial and residential development.
I missed one.
Sorry.
Thank you. That was my error. I've jumped forward to
You jumped.
14.7.
Right.
So if we could deal with this first, CAO, and then go back to 14.6.
So we're on 14.7025.
Yes.
That would be fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for catching that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Sorry.
Any questions of the planner or comments?
We haven't, I don't think I've seen a full development plan. I'm just wondering if this may be the right time to ask it. Does it include underground parking? Or is it all outside?
No, Madam Mayor, it does not include, I think it could be under building parking, but not
Okay, so
underground.
there is under building parking.
Under building parking, yes. Not fully underground.
Right. I would like to move the motion for a third, the bylaw for a third time. Third reading.
Seconded by Councillor Peak. Any other comments or discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? None? Carried. And my apologies, we were going to back up a bit to 14.6, zoning bylaw amendment 15823 Logie Road, bylaw number 2018-023.
So just, sorry, can we just clarify, one clarification?
Sure.
Is the adoption of this one and the other third readings planning to come to the 27th meeting or the October meeting?
I think the October meeting, we need to give the Ministry of Transportation enough time to
Oh, I thought we
sign
had
the
talked
bylaws.
about having them ready for the, because of the timing of
27th,
the sales
I
agreement. I thought we had
defer.
talked about having them ready for the 27th.
Okay.
I'm
If that's,
We do need to submit them to Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, and in order to give enough leeway for the agenda to be produced for the 27th, that doesn't buy enough days. And we don't have a pre-agreement with MOTI.
Oh, I thought we were going to discuss it with them so that we were ready for that meeting. Okay, so I apologize, I guess not.
yeah, the one-day turnaround is difficult.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to review our records and the timing of the agreements that we have and look to see whether or not we can wait the full 2 weeks till the next meeting.
Okay. Carry on with 14.6, please.
Okay. I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, it threw me because, of course, there is a typo on this particular slide, so that's where I had to look twice. So just using this as reference to the map, this is an application to amend, also a site-specific amendment, to amend a zone to allow a particular use at this location. And as you heard, the public hearing earlier, it's essentially to allow contractor service general within the light industrial M1 zone.
Thank you. Any questions of our planner? Councillor Holmes.
I'll move third read.
Seconder, Councillor Peak. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? None. Okay. We're getting there. Item 15, council reports. I'm going to catch people off guard. I'm going to start with Councillor Holmes this time.
I wouldn't want anybody to accuse me of lectioneering, so I have no report.
All right. Councillor Trainer.
I think that you summarized our UBCM trip very well, so your report is my report, or the mayor's report.
Oh, good. Councillor Peak.
I appreciate the opportunity to be at UBCM, and I think that we did a lot of good work there.
Councillor Barkwell.
Ditto.
One of the best parts about UBCM for me was that they offered childcare, and I was able to send Elsa there for a couple of the days, and it was really helpful. So hopefully that will continue for those that want to use it into the future.
And may I do a councillor report?
You're the boss.
Okay, I'm going to do a councillor report too. And this has to do with a couple of things that came out of the RDOS meeting on Thursday. We had a presentation by Sarah Boyle, who has been hired by Parks Canada to work on the whole process of the Natural Park Reserve. Really interesting presentation. Of particular note is the public consultation will begin in early November. It will be online, and there will also be a number of meetings, so people can stay up to date on that, either on the Parks Canada website, and certainly it will be in the media as well. So that was pretty interesting. They're looking at an MOU in August of 2019. Negotiations will take 1 or 2 years, and it takes about 12 years for a park to be fully established, so that was news to me. Sarah Boyle will be back at the RDOS on December the 6th for another presentation. The other thing I wanted to mention, this came out of RDOS as well, only because it was brought up by Mayor Jacobite. And Councillor Peak and Councillor Holmes and I attended a meeting hosted at the City of Penticton about primary care networks. And to make a long story short, we met with Ministry of Health staff at UBCM, and we had a delegation from the team, Tracy St. Clair, Susan Brown, Dr. Tim Phillips, and Carla Wargotch. At RDOS, they said that they have been contacted already by the Ministry of Health, and they were not able to share particular information, but it looked very promising that the Penticton Care Network would be getting underway. It will not be a pilot project. It will kind of be in full swing. A fair bit of, a lot of work has gone into this by that group. And why it's particularly important for Summerland is Penticton and Summerland were designated by the Ministry of Health as one of 5 spots in the province that are considered a first wave. So they had to come up with their proposal, which they submitted by August the 8th. And the alarming statistic that we heard at that meeting was that right now there are 54 GPs in Penticton and Summerland, and within 5 years, 14 of those doctors are expected to retire. So the system that we have now is not necessarily the system that we should see in the future, and the primary care networks is looking at a multidisciplinary model, so you have nurse practitioners and social workers and doctors and dietitians all working together in the same clinic. So that's all I wanted to say about that, but it looks very promising, and it's really good that Summerland and Penticton are being grouped together and that we're working collaboratively on this. So thanks. Now, time for the public and media for question period. Is there anyone? Thank you.
Hello, sorry. My name is Lynn Boyd, and I'm walking on a 3-week-old knee replacement, so if I'm a little shaky, I'm sorry. I'm also a little drugged.
Not even legal yet.
Okay, this is the question period. My question to council basically is, why? On June 26th, I submitted a letter addressed to the council and mayor because there were things happening next to my property and my neighbor's property, which we were questioning and didn't know about, and the people at Development Services were unable to give us an answer that made any sense to me. So, as your representatives, my representatives, I thought, okay, fine, I'll address this question to you guys. So June 26th, I deposited in the hands of the people at reception my letter. Also paid my taxes that day. And waited. In fact, I came to the July, I think it was 7th or 9th meeting because I thought, I don't know how they handled this. I don't know how this works. But I came, and I watched, and I couldn't see how I fit in, and I certainly heard nothing about my letter, but I thought, okay, reasonable, give them time to respond. So, July 27th, I resubmitted my letter with the addition of my neighbor's signature now, because he's away often and he was not able to respond or to participate in the first one. So I resubmitted it again, and I have it now stamped with a card and the signature of the person that took the letter, and I still have heard nothing. Meantime, the construction, of course, has carried on, and the builder laughs at me every time I'm out in my yard wondering what the hell he's doing next. But, so my question is why? I've paid my taxes, I've lived here for 18 years, my neighbor has been in his home for 38 years. We have had no chance to participate in any of these variances or things that I'm hearing going on this morning, today, could be this morning. And I'm just wondering why. So I'll leave this letter with you because I don't know what else to do. I don't know how to insert myself in this process. So here I am, asking you to please take a look at what's going on here, and maybe someone could at least acknowledge that there has been a letter submitted and that it's being looked at, because I've heard nothing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you, pardon me?
Don't mind.
Yeah.
I'm not sure on this, I'll have to review the letter. Karen does typically respond to all letters. We did have a conversation recently on a letter that she was referencing that, and I don't know if it's the same one, I'll have to look at that tomorrow, but that had asked why council wasn't responding as individuals, and she explained in her response that it is not the practice of council to respond individually, and that it needed to be reviewed by the departments, and if it was something that could be appealed, that it would come to council. But if it was if the person building or whatever it was didn't require permits, or if it wasn't a bylaw officer, it couldn't, a bylaw issue, that there would be nothing to comment on. So I will follow up, and I'll provide council a response tomorrow on what, if I've even seen it, and what the situation is, because I don't know if this is one or not.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Boyd. Anybody else from the gallery, from the public, care to comment? Pardon me?
I think June wanted to speak.
June?
Oh,
okay. And I don't see anyone from the media here, so I guess I will ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Councillor Peak, Councillor Holmes, all those in favor? Great. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.